Hi guys, welcome to the Lifestyle Design Secrets podcast. I'm your host Amy, and we're going to be covering conversations about fitness, nutrition, mindset, and a whole lot more. Enjoy. Hi guys, and welcome to the Lifestyle Design Secrets podcast, where I'm going to be chatting to Paula Moore today.
Yeah.
And we've been thinking about doing this for a long time.
We have.
So
we've filled up enough. I think on every walk that we go on, we're like, we should make this into a podcast.
Hour and a half walks around the two things. So shit. I actually have to register whether this is explicit or not, so God knows how much we'll be finding. But we'll see.
I'll see what I can do. I'll try my best.
And so how we're going to roll is we're going to start with a bit of a starter on you, Paula Moore, and then into the meaty main course where God knows what we're going to be covering. I feel like I'm going to have to do an intro for this after the fact.
Is it going to be a 7-course degustation?
Yeah, probably. And then a juicy dessert and some takeaway tips for people. Yeah. So first of all, give me an introduction to you.
Yeah, intro to me. So I am a business and personal coach. So I specialise with working with solo entrepreneurs is usually who my client is, and it's often somebody who has a goal that they're wanting to reach. Often that involves pricing. So they've generally been pricing themselves
way too low.
So they've looked around at external sources and thought, they're a little bit more experienced than me, or they're a little bit less experienced than me, and I'll price myself accordingly, rather than actually looking at the offer that they are providing and the value that they're giving to the client and what client they're trying to attract, and then pricing accordingly. So that's my favourite client to work with, just because it's so easy to take their business from somewhere where they are struggling to actually not doing any more work but just making double the amount of income. So everyone loves that.
Everyone loves that, and it's so. I've been on a bit of a journey with this, and I can tell you that when you are attracting people who are in the right place and time in their life, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So rather than people who are going, fuck it, I'll give this a go.
Yeah.
People who are like, I know I need a change. I know I need support.
Yep.
And I want you to get me there.
Yep.
That's the real value.
Yep. Absolutely. And when the price is a little bit edgy for the right client, then they're not only fully invested, but they've also got to do a little bit of pre-coaching with themselves before they say yes, which makes our time together so much more powerful, because they've already had to do the work to value themselves enough to invest that money in this outcome. So it's
can't believe we're talking about money.
I know, totally off topic.
It's I did a load of fitness and nutrition plans for people for free when I got started. Very cheap mates rates.
Yeah.
People would throw a couple of $100 at it, and they'd probably make quite good change. They'd lose 5-10 kilos and then go, that was fun.
Yeah.
But when people pay and invest, my favourite saying, when people pay, they pay attention.
Yes.
And that really means they're committed.
Yep. And I think the other difference is that often when you're paying a small amount, the attention is quite a small amount of time as well. So rather than a marathon where you're wanting to make prolonged, sustainable change, it's like, I'm doing a sprint here. I'm just doing this for a small amount of time, and then they fall back into the same habits. Whereas when the investment's been large, or large or edgy for them, then they're constantly reminding themselves of, like, I backed myself with this. Yeah. I've paid a lot of money for this. Like, I'm not going to fail at this. I'm going to put everything into it. So I think there's just so many elements that come into it, so many layers that make it more powerful.
Yeah. On that, like looking at the long-term goal, a marathon rather than a sprint. I was listening to our favourite, good old Alex Hormozy yesterday.
Talking about Alex Hormozy fan club, right here.
He was talking about playing the game of business, but also the game of health. And he was like, life is all about playing the game, because if you're playing the game, you're in it for the long haul. Yeah. Like, you don't win at business you keep playing.
Yep.
You don't win at health,
Mm-hmm.
you just keep playing.
Yep.
Which is why it's important to make it fun.
Yep. Yes.
You don't win at marriage.
Yep.
The aim of the game is to keep
Yep.
playing.
Yep. Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
And I think when you frame it that way as well, is that it's an adventure.
Yeah.
So when it's a game, it feels a lot more playful and a lot more like an adventure than like a short-term slog. Or something that you're kind of aiming for this point and then you just go back to normal. It's like this is just an adventure, and we're looking at long-term sustainable change and just getting like 1 degree better every day.
Yeah, for sure. We need to get into body bank accounts at some point.
Oh, we do.
I already feel like I'm going to be slicing this podcast.
I know.
Like Amy and Paula talk money. Amy and Paula talk diet.
Yeah. Like, what was the actual topic?
Yeah, no, that isn't one. I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So, just to round out the starter,
Mm-hmm.
how do you remember how we met? What were your first impressions?
Yeah.
Do you remember the nutrition talk, like back at the Pink Lady years ago?
I don't know if that was the first time that we
Wasn't
met.
the first time, it was
but certainly my impressions of you were, I think you've got an amazing energy, and so you have a really commanding presence when you walk into a room, and I noticed that straight away because I notice people's energy, and so that was something that I noticed about you straight away. And I think I loved how a small town, I think sometimes people can just kind of fade in to a small town and just kind of hide and like sort of try not to make any kind of big loud ripples or anything like that. And I think when you came into town and you were so passionate about health and well-being, and you pivoted really strongly with your marketing business, is that you just went in kind of guns blazing, and you were just like so passionate about it. It was in such an amazing way that I just thought, I just love your confidence. And it was amazing. It was amazing because I think there's too many women.
I'm not paying you to big me up.
No, I know, but this is, you asked my opinion, and that was my opinion.
Do you remember where I was going with this? Do you remember being sat in Bannockburn and we were talking about what you eat throughout the day and how you were feeling, your energy levels, and you just eaten a load of chips?
Yeah.
All the way back from Monaco, and you're like, I just had to go for a nap.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Actually, now that you say that, I do remember. And I think that was a real realization after that the knowledge to do with food and your body and how it affects your body, I think, evolves over time. But I think I'd kind of been stuck in a bit of a time warp where I was really just hammering the same things or the same habits, and it wasn't making me feel good, but I wasn't questioning it. I sort of felt like I had tried so many different diets. I'd tried so many different, plans, or, you read something about, well, this is what this celebrity eats and this is the diet plan this celebrity has, and you're just kind of like, oh, I'll try that this week, or I'll try that this week. And,
you can actually go through the world very unconsciously, can't you?
Yeah.
Just with all these external media, and you go, I'll give that a go, a go, or whatever, flavour of the week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think coming back to my approach with it was very short term. Like, I was looking to lose 5 kilos or whatever, so that I could look good in some photos, maybe if there was a wedding coming up, or maybe if there was summer coming up, that I was like, oh, well, I need to get stuck into this. And so I was very much yo-yoing, because I would reach this goal, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm here now, and then I would revert back to the same habits. So and that's kind of, and I also, in full transparency, don't want to say that I don't do that anymore, because there are still, I feel like I'm constantly growing. But I think the thing is that when I find myself falling back into bad habits, I pull myself out of it much faster than I used to. So,
and that's it, isn't it? It's all about playing the game.
Exactly.
Life moves in waves.
Yeah.
So I have been, people find this quite funny, I've gained and lost like 7 kilos this year. Probably twice.
Yep.
Yeah, really interesting. So different body composition, but people just go, oh, once you're there, and it's not about the destination.
Yeah,
it's about the journey.
I think that's a really important distinction to make, and I think that that's really important for people to hear, because I think, like, I've known you that whole year and I have not noticed a change at all. She always looks fabulous. She always looks great. But I think it is really important to let people know and to be honest about, like we're not robots. Like we're not robots, and the different seasons and the different things that you're up to and the different goals that you have are often going to mean that things aren't just going to be. Life is never like that.
Life isn't linear.
Yeah.
You don't get to the destination and go, yay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the problem with short term as well.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pause and turn on my phone. Right. So let's get into the main course of this chat.
Yeah.
Let's kick off with our university diet fails.
Where do we start?
Let's go low fat and trying to eat lots of healthy whole grain.
Yep. So I think even if I take it back a step back, I think in the household that I was raised in, my mum was always very, very conscious and very aware of what she ate, but also very aware of what I ate, and often made comments about things that I'm sure that she thought were helpful, but actually kind of had the opposite effect of, I think, what she was trying to achieve. So it was very much of you can't eat that, you'll get fat. You can't eat that, you'll get fat. And so it was very much a thought in my mind about how I had to be fearful of certain foods, like certain foods were going to make me fat. And so I think this was the thing, is when I ate them, I would feel a lot of shame, or I would feel like a lot of guilt, and that I couldn't eat them in front of her. So then that kind of started a little bit of secret eating, and then it kind of just gets worse and worse, because the shame cycle and the secret eating cycle, they just kind of eat away at each other. You know what I mean? And so I think when I went to university and then had all of this freedom, there were kind of no comments anymore.
You lost a certain level of accountability.
Totally.
Probably more helpful.
Well, I think for myself, I had just got into a really poor habit of really wanting the things that I wasn't allowed. So I doubled down on that. and we had a McDonald's that was on the corner of the street that I lived in my first year of uni. And so every night we would go there and have McFlurries. So
I just pause you right now while we're talking about this? So my background being in the geographies and epidemiology of obesity, you'd come from a really, really small town in the middle of central Otago and gone to Dunedin. Suddenly there was a McDonald's there. It was a novelty, and so you were going every night.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's an environmental change.
Yep.
That's one change.
Yeah. So and there were so many other things going on as well. So back however many years ago that I was at university, a lot of the student bars weren't allowed to serve you alcohol unless you were also eating food. So you could get discounted alcohol, but you had to buy a fisherman's basket full of deep fried delicious goodness.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I wish our university bars had done that.
Yeah.
That would have been quite helpful.
Yeah. So they called it.
But yeah, so you were buying deep fried goodness.
Oh yeah.
On top of the alcohol.
Yep. So
probably sugary alcohol. What was your drink of choice?
Pretty much whatever was cheapest at the bar. But when I would go to the supermarket to buy something, it was always the cheapest bubbles. Yeah, the cheapest bubbles was what
you
we
were
getting.
classier than me. We were buying, it was like £3 wine from a place called Champagne Charlie's, or you get 2 for £5, which for Kiwis is $10. Yeah, and then we would go out and drink quad bod oranges. Oh my gosh. That had vitamin C in. So you know, help me with my precious vitamins. And about 5-10 teaspoons of sugar.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So when I say bubbles, I mean very, very cheap.
Like Lindauer. What was it called?
Oh, it was nowhere near as classy as Lindauer.
Just saying.
It was there was two favourites. One was Bernardino. Because that was always on coupon at New World, back when we had coupons. And Passion Pop. So that was some really good marketing. Really good marketing.
Really good.
Yeah, that was pretty hot if you could get it. So it wasn't always there, so only on special occasions.
Oh my god.
And I think that was about $4.9. It was under $5 a bottle. So it sounds very much like the offering of Champagne Charlie. So
strong. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was alcohol completely unrestricted. There was all of these amazing new food choices, and they had deals with fast food all over town. So, Dunedin had a massive student culture. So, it was $5 pizzas at all the pizza places. So it was just everything was fast food.
Never ending.
It was just never ending.
And so that was obviously, I had a really similar experience. I went into catered halls.
Yes.
I think I probably gained about 12 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
I would go, and what I want to talk to you next is about, that's obviously the blowout side of uni, which we all had in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm quite interested in is when you were trying. You were trying to be healthy and just not quite, you were just missing the mark. And I think we've both discussed this, but what I used to do was, in catered halls especially, I'd go and eat sugary muesli thinking I was making the good choice, or brown toast, wholemeal toast, because I thought that was good for me as well. The whole food pyramid, plenty of grainy carbohydrates. And then I would probably have like some kind of low-fat sandwich or something for lunch. And I would get back before dinner in the evening, and me and my friend Nikki, calling you out, Nikki, if you're listening to this, I hope you are, used to literally sit and eat bowls of Cocoa Pops because we were so starving. And now I know we'd eaten absolutely no protein or any ounce of fat throughout the day. So what were your attempts to try?
So I think in that very first year, it was kind of just like freedom. Like, I've just got freedom to do what I want, to drink what I want, to eat what I want, and I was really going for it. And loving it. And then once I moved into a flat with girls that were very beautiful, beautiful girls, and I had gained all of this weight, and these girls would just, they would go to the gym, they were regular at the gym, and they seemed to be a few kilos, all of them were a few kilos kind of less than me. And so I was like, it's sort of become quite clear all of a sudden that I couldn't continue with the diet habits that I had. But because I didn't really know where to go for information, and I don't really just want to sit down with them or have the confidence to say,
what do you eat?
Like why is what's the difference here? What's the difference? What am I not doing right?
What am I missing?
So I started to try and fill in the puzzle pieces myself, and I think that spanned probably 15 years of my life trying to do that myself, just trying to see from the tiny snippets of different people's lives and the things that they were eating or the things that they were doing. I would try to kind of extrapolate that out to sort of figure out what they were doing that I wasn't doing. So one of the big ones was the gym. So massive gym goers. So I was like, well, I guess that's my problem.
I go to the gym.
I guess that's my problem. It's definitely like the massive bowl of tuna pasta that I have every night. Like, that can't be the problem, but it's, so I started going to the gym, and obviously the alcohol was still happening, and the food, I was kind of trying a few different things on, but still really struggling with energy levels. And at the gym, I didn't really understand what a difference weights would make to me. So I was all about the treadmill.
So rather than building up your muscle to help you develop muscle that we need as it disappears with age, and to build muscle tone isn't the thing, but to build your body up so that you've got muscle, so that if you did lose weight, you would look and feel really good. You were on the treadmill.
I was on the treadmill.
good times.
Yep.
Just burning.
Yeah. And I look back on it now and I just remember like
just
going
trying to
there on
outwork.
Saturdays. Like I'd go there on Saturdays and just my goal was always to either undo what damage I felt that I'd done, or because I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. So it was just
you
like,
were just meant to be there.
I was just meant to be there. Like you have to go to the gym and you have to, put in the work. But it's like, I wasn't really very clear on what that work was.
Did you see any changes?
No changes. And I think
this is an important fact though, did you feel good after you went?
Yeah, I felt good after I went.
Still
but I think
good.
my mindset was still very much that this is a punishment.
I've just burned off my McFlurry.
Yeah.
Woo.
So I'll be able to have 2 bottles of wine tonight rather than 1 bottle of wine. It was always like this mathematical kind of equation. Because I've done that, then I get to do this. Rather than looking at it from more of a holistic approach of like what, or getting any support from anyone who could really, like I never went to a personal trainer. I never really learned anything about food or about what I should be
think we should
eating.
also just canvas it. Like back in the day, without giving away our ages, Instagram wasn't a thing.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of mixed messages and stupid messages out there. As opposed to real food and movement messages. But there's also a hell of a lot of good stuff. The internet was around, but potentially not much of it. Wasn't really clear on whether you were getting information from good sources or whether it was, like the latest, what was it, like the cayenne pepper diet or whatever. Like all sorts
tried
of
that one.
Did you?
Not till I went to London. I tried that in London. Made myself very sick. Had to stay close to the toilet for a whole weekend. Yeah, it was. Don't recommend that.
But it's like I'm not sure whether it's more or less of a minefield now, because like you were saying, you had no idea where to get information from.
Yeah,
it was bloody confusing. You'd follow your friends. Follow what they were doing.
I think for me personally, I don't know whether this has come with age. And experience, I guess, because I've tried a lot of things that haven't worked, but I feel like I am the places where I source my information from in terms of nutrition all seem to be very much on the same page and all seem to, energy is the big factor. Energy is the big factor of just making sure that you're feeling stable throughout the day. And if you're eating the right things, then naturally you won't really need to worry about the weight side of things, because if you know what you're doing, then
that's a huge element. I've just got a new form on my website that says "Tell me everything."
Yeah,
and in there, obviously, most people by the time they come to me, they want to lose weight. They know they're not doing something right, and they want to feel better.
Yeah,
they think about the extra tire around their tummy, the fact that they've hit 100 kilos, or even just hitting 70 kilos, which for some people is a huge change. And it's, about, 10 kilos worth of uncomfortable weight for a lot of women. And there's a question on the form that is so telling. And it's how often do you suffer from fatigue, low energy levels, or low mood? Everyone. It is about the tire. And it's about really more comfortable in your body. But it's really there are so many women and men actually who are floating through life with their blinkers on, just thinking that this sufferfest is what it has to be.
And certainly for me, I don't think I ever knew what it felt like to have lots of energy. So I was like, when people sort of talked about energy, it was something that didn't really make that much sense to me, because I had never experienced a lot of energy. And I think when I am really mindful and very intentional with what I'm eating, it's easy to wake up in the morning. Like I just have consistent energy throughout the day, and doing 2 workouts, if I feel like doing 2 workouts, is no big deal. I don't have to push myself to do it, because I've got excess energy, and it makes you feel good. Yeah, and it makes you feel good. Whereas, yeah, I think before that, I just didn't know quite how bad I felt.
I don't think you do.
No.
Until you're on the other side, because
Yeah.
you've got a job, kids.
Yeah.
You just got to get through life.
Yeah.
You've got to get your next paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get dinner on the table at night.
Yeah.
And you so often just choose the easiest option, and it's
Yeah.
actually quite painful to stop
Mm-hmm.
and go, actually, how could I do this better?
Mm-hmm.
Because that often means saying goodbye to things that you do on a very regular basis that have built up into habits.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think energy throughout the day is a big one.
Yeah.
So give us a little juicy insight into your routine.
Into my routine now?
Yeah.
So, again,
feel free
complete
to
transparency. Complete transparency is that right at the moment, I very much struggle with the inversion layer that Cromwell has during winter time.
Tell me about
and
it.
I find that I said to someone the other day that when the inversion is stuck around for a long time, I just start to feel kind of mildly aggressive all the time. I
had conversations with 3 or 4 people last week who were like, I feel so low.
Yes. Yeah.
And mildly aggressive.
Yeah.
Really
and so, but what's also been interesting is like the last week, so it's been really bad inversion layer. And the last week I have really struggled to make myself exercise. So at most I've managed a couple of walks, but normally I would do weight 3 or 4 times a week, and I haven't done it once. Mm-hmm. So that is kind of for me. And again, what I was saying, I'm not perfect, and so, but I can look at that and go, I don't like where this is going. Like, you need to sort this out. And so usually, like, after about a week, that is when I notice that things are starting to slip a little bit, and then I kind of ask questions instead of just being completely unaware that things aren't going that well. Then I sort of ask myself questions about, well, what's going on? Like, how did you sort of get here, and what do you need to do to kind of turn things around? And it is amazing, because as soon as I see sky again, I just want to go and exercise, or I want to move my body.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it definitely seems
really
to kind of mess with my head.
It?
But I would say, so my routine, when I first started learning a lot more about protein and how important that it was, I actually did a fitness challenge where we got food information, but we also got workouts. So the workouts were very much, it was just 4 times a week. A light walk was really the only cardio that was suggested, but the rest of it was weights, and we were given a weights program. And for the food side of things, I remember being really shocked when I made the first lunch. So the first lunch was like a salad, but it had some cheese in there, but it only had 1/3 of a cup of gluten-free pasta in it. And I remember putting it in 1/3 of the cup, and I looked at it and I was like, that's ridiculous. What's the point? That's what I thought. I was like, what's the point? But actually, when I sat and I ate it, and it was with some yummy lamb loin chops, and I remember finishing it.
Was a good component.
The protein was a massive component in it. There was a small amount of carbs, and there were fats in there and veggies.
Yeah.
But I remember getting to the end of it and thinking, like, it blew my mind how content I was.
Yeah.
So I was content with what I had when I was expecting that I would be ravenous. I was expecting that it wasn't going to do enough.
Yeah.
And then I got to the end of it and I was like, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at that. And that lunch actually ended up being, I've had that lunch most days.
Yeah.
Because I loved it. It was super easy to prepare in advance, because I just prepared all of the cooked pasta, and then I just, put it in my 1/3 of a cup. Yeah. And it was perfect. But what my biggest realization is when I knew nothing about food, if I wasn't losing weight, I would eat less. So I found that when I actually, and it wouldn't work. and so I would be like, well, I'm obviously still eating too much, so I would reduce it again. And that was my mindset, was if there was something not right, then I'm eating too much. But I had no awareness of what I was actually eating and what that needed to be made up of.
Yeah.
So when I did this challenge, and I was kind of feeling like it was quite easy, and I also felt very content. I never felt hungry, but my body was changing shape.
Like
and that's
magic.
the first, it is. And that was the first time that had ever happened to me, was that I felt like I was eating more than what I had been.
Yeah.
I was eating more. So we were eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, a snack, and a dessert.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't going to work.
This is not going to work.
This is not going to work. And sure enough, not only was I losing weight, but I was changing the shape of my body. And that absolutely blew my mind on so many levels, because I had always been convinced that, because I'd been told, oh, you've just got a thick waist. Like my mum was like, you've just got a thick waist like me. You know, you've just got, that's where you're going to put all of your weight on. And I just had that repeated to me constantly, was that I had really internalized the belief that I had no control over the shape of my body.
Wow, yeah.
So I just accepted it. I just accepted it. And then when I had done this, and I was like, I was just like, my mind was just being blown constantly, because I was like, not only has my body shape changed, but I'm eating food that tastes delicious, which another belief that I grew up with was you would like, being on a diet, it really sucks, and you had to eat food that tastes terrible, and you know, all of this stuff that was just, these beliefs were just getting shattered, just completely shattered.
Total rubbish. I remember, so it's funny when you mentioned external sources, right? So I always got told, my dad's a Kiwi, so I was big boned.
Yeah.
I was always going to be big boned. It definitely wasn't like the Cocoa Pops or, like you said, bowls of pasta or like what I was putting in my body. What else did I get told? Heaps of stuff like that. I'm similar to you, probably, like when you do put on weight, it naturally goes on like my face, boobs, my stomach. I think a lot of women are similar.
Sadly, not to my boobs.
But yes, shocker. I feel like we have
stomach and face.
Stomach and face. I feel like we need to have a whole other episode on boobs, because I saw Kate Ivy talk about it the other day. Mine were too big for any form of bra at one stage. Anyway, so where I was going with this was, again, those beliefs that that's just your body shape and it can't change. And I think, fast forward about 5 years on after leaving uni, various different things had happened, but I got really fascinated about educating myself on actually what to eat. Apart from the environmental factors, there's actually nutritionally, there's so much misinformation out there. And I think I'd found like a bodybuilding, my partner at the time, had found a bodybuilding shred type thing, and so I did my own take on that, in conjunction with a little bit of a keto diet experiment. Suddenly I was 58 kilos, which I don't think is probably that healthy for me, but it felt amazing. I pretty much had abs, and I'd debunked all of the rumours ever. Everything I'd been told about having big bones, I was like, what were they on about? Like, turns out my bones are tiny. Under here. But I'd been walking around with, 12, 14 kilos of extra body fat. And again, you say your body changing. I'm far heavier now, but I've gained how much muscle? And again, my body shape's changed again. And it's crazy. What you believe is possible versus when you actually understand how you can kind of engineer your own body.
And I think this is where I currently am. Like when you said, where are things at right now, is I am so aware of the powerful combination and the necessary combination of knowledge, and the right knowledge, and mindset. So without a good combination of both of those things, and in fact, if neither of those things are present, and that's where I was, is that neither of those things were present. I had these beliefs that were holding me back. I had, these voices in my mind that were telling me that, it wasn't possible to live the life I wanted to live, to eat food that tasted delicious and that was good for me and that was going to give me the body that I wanted. I was very much of the belief that well, you diet and it's punishment
and it's
horrible, and you're probably not going to be able to hang out with your mates because you're going to be so boring, and what's the point anyway? Because I've tried so many things and nothing's worked. But it was just that I lacked the right information, and I also had the belief that it wasn't going to work, and so
you get to that stage when you've tried and tried and tried.
Yeah, and it just feels very defeating. Like you're like, well, I really did try that time, or and I think especially if you're looking at like short-term change, or you're wanting to lose like 5 kilos so that you can look great in this dress that you want to wear for a wedding you're going to, or something like that, then you get stuck in this cycle of just short-term change.
Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest shift for me, was this is a long-term game.
Yeah. Well, I was writing an article the other day about asking people whether you're building a body for holiday or a body for life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very interesting, because I was the same to you, and I went through years of going, I just need to like hit 60 kilos or below, or I just need to go to the gym 5 or 6 times this week because I know I'm going on holiday in 6 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know I'd bounce back to a certain extent. And I do think there's a certain element of health to that, as in life moves in waves.
Yes. Yep.
So you can try harder when you've got the energy and the motivation, and then have time off, have a good break off.
Yeah.
But I think how I'm now looking at things is, I could go to the gym 5 times a week. Turns out I don't have to.
Yeah.
And actually, the approach, building a body, my old lady body.
Yes.
Not my body for holiday. So, maintaining muscle mass. Feeding myself good food. And not doing excess cardio, because let's be honest, that's just going to end in injury and sore joints and arthritis if we go too crazy. I do think cardio and stuff like that has a huge place for mental health.
Well, that's I was going to say. So now when I look at the cardio that I do, so I am going to start training shortly for half marathon in Queenstown. So I have a very different focus on that goal and why it is that I'm doing it, because I love the feeling of strength and flow, and when I'm feeling like, when I'm listening to music and I am really, it is pushing my tempo, and I just feel like I'm pushing myself, but I'm also running quite fast. I feel really powerful, and I love that feeling. Like I love it, and I also love like the competing against myself of getting better and getting stronger. And so that is the element that I love about that, not using it as a vehicle for punishment, which is how I used to do it. So that was something else I was going to mention, is the real, one of the big shifts for me, and this has also been in my language and in my beliefs, is that, if I do fall back into old habits through a change in environment or through a change in season or whatever, then previously I used to really beat myself up, and the words that I always used was falling off the wagon. So I'm like, I've fallen off the wagon. Yeah. I've done it again.
I've got to get all the way back onto it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the way I've described this to a client before is, we are doing this, it's a journey. It's a journey, and, things will happen in waves, and there'll be ups and there'll be downs. But as soon as you assume that because what we're actually doing is this, you know what I mean? Yeah. But as soon as you assume that you've done that, and that you have just gone straight down to where you started, or even worse, like at a lower point than where you started,
which is what most people
that seems feel like a massive gap. And all of a sudden you feel like you've got this insurmountable kind of challenge ahead of you, because you've really screwed it, and you've undone all your good work. I hear that as well, like, I've just undone all my good work. And it's like, have you though? Or have you really just had a week or 2 weeks out of your entire life where you just need to be a little bit more mindful and just go, all right, well, let's just get back to the habits that we know serve us, and not punishing, and not making it mean that we're a failure, or that we're useless, or that we've got no self-control. And I think for me, the new success in my journey, or I guess in in health, is how quickly, when I feel myself falling into bad habits, how quickly am I bouncing forward, am I having the self-awareness to know what's going on here, and getting myself back to somewhere that feels good. So that is what success looks like for me, is how small is that gap between when I notice something's going wrong and when I recalibrate. So now for me, that's the language I more use, is it's like I'm recalibrating, like I'm bringing myself back to intention.
I love that.
Rather than I've fallen off the wagon, what am I going to do? I've ruined it, or how am I going to get back there? And it's like, in my mind mentally, that just feels like a difference between, just a little bump in the road versus a 10-car collision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So we're kind of, I suppose, both in the coaching sphere, right? And that's the beauty of coaching, is I get clients going, I ate pizza yesterday, this weekend's been a disaster, family, work, illnesses. They are they're running through life with the belief that their life, their energy levels, their body are out of their control. Everyone's pulling at them. And I think you've taught me a huge thing in protecting your own energy and how powerful that can be. And again, it's just recalibrating, rather than going, I've totally fucked up. Actually thinking about it, think about the progress you've made so far, and actually just bringing yourself back to not I'll start tomorrow, or I'll start on Monday. Your next snack, your next meal, you can either choose to go out for a walk or to not. And listening to your body and how that feels, because I've had to go through a whole huge journey of being a massive gym bunny for a decade and loving it, getting COVID lungs, and I physically could not exercise apart from going for a walk. And I could have so easily gone, well, I'm fucked. My business is screwed. I can't do fitness anymore. Like, what am I going to do? And I think then it does really come down to just the micro details and how easy it can be to manage your energy levels and your body composition with food. To start with.
How quickly your body wants to be in alignment, right? Like it wants you to make the right choices. So when you do, how quickly that it shows you it's all right, you're not that far away. You know what I mean? Like like we've got this.
As soon as you get back on the right track, or a track that feels good for you.
But another thing, and actually this is a reminder to myself, because I was just thinking, what are the things when I'm starting to get off track? What are the tools that I do use? And one of them I'm about to say that I've kind of forgotten about, which I'm like, I used to use this all the time. And this has been really useful for me. Is it starts with awareness, though. It starts with awareness, and that's when you're reaching for something that you know is not taking you closer to your goals. So
good old James Clear.
So
just pause, and so what he says about habits is every single habit, every single action you take every single day, I'm probably going to butcher it, takes you further towards or further away from where you want to be. So when you start to stack your behavior in that way, it all becomes very simple.
And so, but it starts with awareness. Because if you've already eaten a thing, or if you're already done that, then it's like it's a matter of catching it beforehand. And so for me, it's like when I go to reach for something, or when I have that thought, I'm hungry, then I ask myself, where's the hunger coming from? And what's the hunger telling you that it really needs? So those are the two questions that I ask, because true hunger starts here. But
my stomach's starting to rumble.
But
how often
made up hunger that you are talking yourself into is usually starts in the mind.
And I'll just mention lots of questions around emotional, irrational eating, eating late at night, and why can't I stop?
Yep.
And you've hit the nail on the head. So often it's you're lonely,
yes,
you're sad,
you're bored,
you're lacking energy.
Associate food with love. Or comfort.
All those things.
And that's why it's so powerful to ask yourself, what am I really hungry for? You know, is it truly
am
food?
I lacking affection? Am I feeling sad or stressed?
And I think it's such a powerful space to be in, because you can coach yourself a little bit on why you're reaching for something when actually it's not a true hunger. It's not starting in the stomach. It's not something where you desperately need that energy. You're hungry for something else.
And we should say as well that you obviously, with Alex, run Buffalo's, a delicious burger truck.
Yes.
And you eat burgers, I still eat pizza, I still drink beer. Like, it's not that you have to stop and make yourself pause every second of every day. But the majority of the time, if you just have that little bit of awareness, what we're talking about is women and men who want to lose weight. You're feeling like you're uncomfortable in your body, and you know that something's falling down somewhere. And emotional eating is massive for both men and women, I would say. Circumstantial eating, because your partner has ice cream, you have ice cream, or all the boys at work got cheese rolls, or we all just got curry for work because we were busy.
Lack of planning.
Lack of planning
is probably one of the biggest points where my eating goes a bit sideways. And so I either go one or two ways. So the first is I start to exist on coffee, and I don't eat very much during the day, and then I will eat a lot at night. So that's when I notice that is starting to happen. Then I'm like, this never ends well for me. Never ends well for energy. For that is actually when I find that I would balloon, is if I'm not eating enough during the day.
You're existing on coffee, so you're probably spiking your cortisol quite substantially throughout the day, which is really, really fun for weight gain around your middle.
And that's exactly what happens.
Stress levels high, and then you've been existing on these stress hormones all day and not getting enough adequate protein in the morning or throughout the day, which for women is really important. And then at night time, you just want to eat everything inside.
And so that would be my classic. I mean, I don't drink. I drink decaf now, so that doesn't tend to happen. But it's either that or it's just overall existing, and I'm not being mindful. And usually that is because I have overcommitted my time and my energy, and so I've stopped being intentional about the food I'm using to nourish me. So those are the two ways that, if now I kind of notice that things are starting to unravel, it would usually be one of those two things. But and both of those things are just giving me, they're communicating with me, like, what am I not focusing on? Like, what am I letting fall over? And for sure the lack of planning is a big one.
I think decision fatigue. That's what it is. So if you don't plan, there's some study that was like, we have to make over 10,000 food decisions in a day. That sounds mental, hey? But so say you wake up, you drive past a cafe, you have to decide whether to go in or not. You have to decide whether to take up their offer of a coffee and a free donut on a Monday. And then you go to the supermarket to do the shopping. God, how many tens of thousands of products are there in the supermarket? All with different micro messages saying low sugar, high protein, healthy whole grains, all these sorts of things, which generally I would say, if it needs a marketing budget, don't eat it. But it's so all those food messages, and when we are tired, we're stressed, we're overcommitted, the decision fatigue, on top of everything else, on top of managing children, a job, meetings, coaching, we just get tired of it. And so if we've already got food, prepared or planned.
Yeah.
Just makes good choices a hell of a lot easier, doesn't it?
And I think one of the big parts as well is when you notice so when I notice that that's happening, is having a bit of compassion towards myself as well, because it is.
Oh, sure.
You're
focusing on other areas, right?
Yeah. And so that is a reminder to me about boundaries and about making decisions. And again, going back to the James Clear thing, it's like, when is this decision taking me closer or further away from my goals? And for me, it's often actually, is this taking me closer or further away from my values?
Yes, I was about to say,
yeah. And so I think it's when you stop being mindful about those things, that's when you all of a sudden realize you put on 5 kilos and you're like, oh, how did I get here?
Yeah.
But
and it's not just the 5 kilos. So you say your values, right? Which for now, I don't know your deeper stuff, values, but I'm guessing for you it's around a healthy marriage, your family, your children.
Yep. So
if you gain that 5 kilos, token number, how do you feel in yourself, and how do you feel that makes a difference in how you show up for your family?
So when I'm focusing on my values.
Yeah. So say you let everything slide
and
you let things change a little bit, and you're feeling a bit meh in yourself.
Oh, it's like chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese. So when I've let my boundaries down, when I have said yes to things that I know I shouldn't have said yes to, or when I overcommit myself to things I feel like should say yes to, then
should.
Terrible. So I'm generally very good in this respect, but in the last couple of weeks there have been things that have showed up that I have genuinely wanted to do. So I've said yes to it, but collectively that's made my week far too busy. And so when that happens, then the food is it's a complete afterthought, and that's kind of when things start to shift. But what I find happens is that I realize that I've done it, and I get pissed off at myself. So I internalize part of that, but also part of it I project onto other people in my life. So I find I don't have the same amount of patience, with my family, and that's not necessarily because anything's changed, that they're doing anything differently.
But it's possible you're not looking after yourself. And
exactly.
That's making you resentful.
Yes. Yep. And I'm annoyed at myself. And so
you become annoyed at everything.
Yeah, I become just slightly annoyed at everything, and obviously, like I said,
you're resenting how much you've given away.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, this was something when I had very, very poor boundaries, and when I was giving far too much of my time and my energy away to places that I shouldn't have been, is that my family got the scraps, and essentially this is what happens, is that now I notice I don't have the same patience because I don't have the energy to give to them right now. And that makes me even more annoyed at myself, because I'm like, the only one that I have to blame for this is me.
Yeah.
Because I had choices to make and I made the wrong ones. But again, it's having that compassion to go, that this is what's happened. The next time that this gets asked of you, you know what to do.
You have a new day. You have a new
week. Yep.
Yeah.
But I think we've talked about it a lot, but it starts with having the self-awareness of what is actually going on here. Like when I have the lack of patience with my family, or, I'm lacking energy, rather than being unconscious to it and just kind of carrying on, it's actually noticing what led me to this and what's really going on here. Because am I really annoyed that they left that on the ground, because they do that quite often?
Yeah.
Or is it just a combination because I'm time poor, because we're running late, because I've packed too much stuff in? Is it those things instead? In which case that's a me problem, not a them problem.
It's so true. I catch myself doing that all the time now. And if I've had a huge day at work, and then you come up, working from home is a fun one too. You come up and the kids been in the media room and there's wrappers everywhere, and it's like, actually, it's not their fault. I've just overworked myself and I'm really moody.
Yep. Yeah.
It's having that real self-awareness to just bring yourself back to the moment as well and just acknowledge what's happened.
Yep.
And that often it is your choices that have led you there.
Yeah.
rather than anyone else's. Yeah. Self-awareness,
Sure.
that's a huge topic as well. And we should probably, I don't know how long we're doing this, we should probably wrap it up at some stage.
Yeah.
But the responsibility, people taking responsibility for their health and well-being and stress levels, I think that's huge, because I think so many people currently outsource their health. They blame fast food, they blame work for being stressful, they blame the fact that they have kids, they blame everything else.
It's personal responsibility. It is taking personal responsibility for where you are and where you want to be. And I also want to make a distinction between responsibility and blame. Because it's like, there's no point in blaming other people or yourself for where you are. It's about taking personal responsibility, because blame is a very toxic kind of energy and space to be in. But responsibility is a very empowering place to be in.
Isn't it? Empowering.
Empowering. Because it's like, if you are just going to sit there and blame everything else around you to avoid doing the work, then no one wins. But once you take personal responsibility, then you can change everything. You can change everything, because it all comes down to us.
That's actually really powerful. I had a beautiful client last year who wanted to lose some weight, but she'd also suffered with eating disorders as well. So I had to be really mindful about that. But she just wanted to educate herself, lose some weight. And when we got down to it, she was giving so much energy away to her job. So much. Answering the phone from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
And then not having the energy to get up and exercise, not understanding what she was putting in her body, telling herself, I have to eat this because when we go out for work, I have to get something. Not the case. And now, it's actually after we finished working together, her life has transformed, like beyond measure, beyond what she thought was possible. But I think the main takeaway is the power and the control that she feels like she's regained over her own decisions. And the
outcomes.
Then the outcomes just happen.
And something actually, when you were saying that story, that I was just thinking in my mind about something else really important that's played out in her transformation is, and just from what you said, is how when you give so much of yourself away to other people, to your job, to external circumstances, is that we often do that when we're really lacking worthiness and valuing ourselves and our time, and that we're valuable enough to do that self-care, and that is important, and that we deserve that. And so when somebody makes that decision, and I see it when people invest in coaching, is that they have made that decision to put themselves first and to value themselves. The same when people come to see you. It's like they are making a decision that they're not going to do this anymore, that they're going to get help, and that they are valuing their health, their energy, and their outcomes. And that starts to bleed into every area of their life.
Oh my God, the changes are massive. Like you can't describe. Like if you start working on yourself and you gain confidence, you feel healthier, you're happier, you have more energy. How on earth do you know that's going to affect all aspects of your life? So your relationships, your work, suddenly it all starts to feel better, flow better. The people around you start noticing. I think that's incredible. And the one thing that sprung to mind when you said that is the analogy of thinking of yourself as the golden goose. So the story of the golden goose is the man has a golden goose, and the golden goose lays a golden egg every day. So that's you looking after your friends, your family, turning up to work, you're delivering the gold, right?
Yeah.
The man gets greedy
Mm-hmm.
and slays the goose,
Yep.
because assuming all the golden eggs are inside,
Yep.
right? So
Mhm.
if we keep slaying
Mm-hmm.
the golden goose,
Mm-hmm.
overworking,
Yep.
overexercising,
Yep.
just not valuing our own time and
Yep.
just being arseholes to ourselves,
Mhm.
basically,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be no more golden eggs.
No. No.
So if you feel like you are the golden goose of your family, your friendship group, and I think everyone kind of is, whether
Yeah.
you're husband, wife, mum, dad, even if it's just of your own life as an individual, I think that's how you keep needing to remember to treat yourself, because if you do burn out,
Yeah.
it's not a nice place to be.
No, it's not. And something conversation I often have with mothers in particular, because society really values mothers nurturing everybody around them and giving so much of themselves away. And we're led to believe that that's the role that we have to play. But a hot take that I've got on it is that actually you taking care of yourself first and foremost above and everybody else is actually the least selfish thing that you can do, because then that flows to everybody else in your life, as long as you're intentional about where that energy goes and you stop giving it to all and sundry and everybody all over the place, because that's not possible. We try, which is what ends up leading to resentment and burnout and all of those things. And so to say to women, this is actually the least selfish thing that you can do, to be the mum that you want to be, to show up the way that you want to show up, because what you're currently doing isn't working.
Yeah, I've actually had 2 conversations with clients this week about that very same thing. And like, actually, as women and mothers, I remember my mum was busy, she was frazzled, and that was like almost fashionable in London at the time. You had to be busy and you didn't know what was going on, and everything was a rush. And
that's fashionable in New Zealand.
Well, yeah, it is. And like, if you're not the helicopter mum or the frazzled parent, you're clearly not working hard enough. And I was talking to a client about it the other day, and I was like, do you ever look at those calm and collected mums who've just left the yoga studio and go, look at them, and feel disdain for them?
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, what they're doing, a lot of people would say is selfish.
Yeah.
What they're actually doing is looking after themselves so that they can stay calm and collected and turn up for their family, a better human being.
And this is such a juicy topic, because I have so much to say on this. But the people that are looking at that person's life and judging it and getting angry about it and being like, she's selfish, it is just a projection of what it's a place of hurt, but it's also a place of, I'm not allowing myself to do that, so how dare she? Like, who does she think she is doing that when I've been told I'm not allowed to? Do you know what I mean? It's like they've never given themselves permission. They don't believe that's possible. So to watch somebody else do that is incredibly triggering.
I feel like we might just be starting off down another rabbit hole.
You should have another podcast on that one.
Exactly, but it's okay for you.
Yeah.
It's okay for you because you get to go to the gym. It's okay for you because you don't have full-time children. It's okay for you. And it's like, actually, when you say those things, what are you projecting onto other people, and what are you upset about within yourself? Anyway, I feel like, so we're going to wrap it up with some juicy takeaway dessert, right? So if you had to give people 2 or 3 tips on how they could improve their day today or their day tomorrow, where would you begin?
Particularly to do with food, or just in general?
So around fitness, nutrition, and mindset.
So I think the things that always help me is, another little saying that I like is, what is easy now is going to make things harder for you later. and what feels hard now is going to make things easier later. So I remind myself of that when I'm like, I don't really feel like doing a workout today. I feel like having, a bowl of pasta for lunch or whatever. And I'm like, well, yes, that might seem easy, or that might be what you want to do now, like the instant gratification of, I love pasta. So it's like, whatever, but how's that going to play out for you in not only the short term, but if you keep coming at it with that mindset, then the long term, you are going to be creating some bad habits again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so it's like,
it's kind of identifying.
It is. And so, it's asking
being
myself
mindful,
that.
really.
Being mindful.
Without sounding too cheesy.
Yeah. But I think it's where it all starts. Where it all starts. And
you would agree with me that we're very flexible eaters in terms of like, we will eat what we want when we want, but it's winning these micro decisions throughout the everyday that enable us to go out and have buffaloes whenever we want or eat pizza. So I think it's really important, that distinction. If you keep learn how to do what you say you're going to do for the majority of the time, gives you a lot of flexibility and freedom.
Yeah, it does. Well, it comes back to the 80-20 rule, doesn't it? Of, what you're doing 80% of the time means that for 20% of the time you can be kind of a little bit flexy. And I think, like, I have realised that, that actually that discipline is freedom, as opposed to just doing whatever I want. That's instant gratification. That's what I feel like doing at the time. Is
because often your feelings have been so manipulated by.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So much.
Yeah. So I think for sure is keeping an eye on the long term game, and asking myself when, and I mentioned it before, like when I go to have something, it's like, is this the most nourishing thing I could have right now?
Yeah.
How am I going to feel?
It's playing the game.
Yeah,
health, right?
it is. And it's like, how am I going to feel once I've consumed this?
Yeah.
And is this taking me closer or further away from what I want? And I think also I've heard something, it might have even been you that said it, that often those cravings only last 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
They don't last for a long time.
Yeah.
So if you can ignore them, or ask yourself, what am I really hungry for? Like, I have been not great at drinking water over winter. Like, I'm not great at doing it. And so a question that I don't have to ask in summer, because I'm always drinking heaps of water, is in winter, how much water have you had to drink today? Are you thirsty?
Yeah.
And most of the time, if I can catch myself and I have the water, then I'm like, I'm actually thirsty.
Yeah, thirsty, not hungry.
It's like I've been in this body for 43 years, and you're like, and I still need to ask myself the basic questions of, are you thirsty or are you hungry?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think I'm just thirsty.
The basics are key.
It is.
The basics are key. I've been similar during winter, and I just bought a Heenus 2-litre water bottle with like the stacking things throughout the day. And I actually drank 2 litres already this morning.
They are really, I mean, I had an enormous one, 3.8 litre one, when I was doing 75 hard, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like all of those memes of all of the
Even
women
just, like,
carrying around the
picking
big bottles, that was basically what I was. But it's really, it's that whole thing of, you watching your progress, you're watching your progress,
it, right?
and I find that really motivating.
It's also making it easier for yourself.
Yeah.
That's a James Clear Habits thing. Like, if you're struggling with something like drinking more water or eating well, it's not willpower. It's physically making it easier for yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like, whether that's a new water bottle, whether that's grabbing some healthy snacks or making your food ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Paula Moore, have we got one final thought?
One final thought.
No pressure.
I'd just say all of this is a work in progress.
Yeah.
We're all a work in progress, and, you're exactly where you need to be right now. And if you're listening to this, I guess you are in a place where
you've done
ready
well
for change. You have done well, where you're ready for change and you're ready to do something new with a bit more of a long-term a long-term focus.
Yeah.
You know, and I think my big thing would just be, don't beat yourself up about the small things that you feel, you know, I've failed or I've fallen off the wagon. You know, being very mindful of your language, and just knowing that you're on a journey and we're playing a game and it's an adventure, and, you know, just stay focused on what your goals are, and, you know, is how I'm going to show up today, taking me closer or further away from my goals. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing closing thought. And so, Paula, where can people find you?
So you're best to find me on Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's where I mainly hang out, and I'm not great at posting on the grid, so I hang out in my stories. That's where all the goodness is.
Paula Moore Coaching.
Yeah. So my handle is at Paula Moore Coaching.
Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We really appreciate it. And if you would like the free tips, information, podcasts, and health hacks to keep coming, please do share this with a friend or take 2 seconds to leave us a review. You can get more free tips and information over on our Food for Thought blog on the website, and also on Instagram at Amy's Fitness and Nutrition.